Thank you, Dean Kawai, for the introduction. Dean Kawai, Vice President Bindu Lohani, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ADB colleagues. I'll be speaking on the progress that South Asia region has made on the regional cooperation and integration. I'll briefly touch upon the prospects and the way forward, what we should be doing in a couple of points. I will try to limit within 10 minutes. South Asia has been a late starter and also a slow mover. For the first 15 years of the creation of SAARC, there was hardly any movement. There were meetings, but nothing substantial happened. But in the last 12 years, particularly after the support coming from ADB as well and a couple of other donors, in some areas there has been some movement, some progress, and these progress are in fact significant. I can list them down into 6 different categories. The most important category, of course, is not been talked about until now, is the changing narratives. Then trade and investments, there is some movement, private sector cooperation, energy, tourism, and ICT. Aside from this, there has also been improved cooperation and coordination in the environment management and natural resource management. On the narratives, South Asia is peculiar in the sense that one single country is the largest, occupies for more than 80% of the total population in the region, and also in terms of the size of the economy. As a result, India factor was always, in many ways, it should have been a boon for the South Asia because of a huge market for small countries. But there was skepticism from all countries to join hands together and work collectively for the regional benefit. But in the recent years, there has been a change of attitude in the policymakers in all countries in the region. They are wanting to come together. I was listening to the budget speech of P. Chidambaram, the Finance Minister of India, only a couple of days ago, and he was in fact appealing to multilateral agencies to support India in the development of infrastructure, linking the eastern region of India with Myanmar. And that clearly sends the signal that India is looking towards higher regional integration so that the border regions can develop. One of the problems that South Asian countries have been facing is that all of the countries have poverty pockets, huge poverty pockets in the border regions, including India. And unless the region unites and integrates economically, the border regions cannot develop. And without the development of the border regions, the security perception and the peace, sustainable peace cannot be ensured. The second feature I say is that Pakistan's move to grant most favored nation treatment to India after so many years is another indicator of the changing narrative. India is also liberalizing visa provision to Pakistanis visiting India. It was highly restrictive in the past. This is an indication of another change in the narrative. And Indian business community is particularly, earlier they were inward looking, now they are looking forward to higher regional cooperation so that India can also gain from collaborating and cooperating with the business community in the region, with smaller countries as well. Trade and investment is one area where there has been substantial progress. Now it is not only because of the donor support like ADB support and other donor support, but also significantly India is coming forward to improve the infrastructure, linking the neighboring countries for better trade with India and among countries in the region like Nepal, India and Bangladesh. Under SAFTA phase 1 and 2, the SAARC countries have been able to substantially reduce the sensitive list of sensitive items and also reduce the tariff. And currently they are preparing SAFTA phase 3 for the tariff reduction and also for tariff rationalization. Aside from the SAFTA arrangement, SAFTA has not fully taken effect, but still the tariff reforms are happening. Aside from the SAFTA, countries are also working bilaterally to reduce the non-tariff barrier. Non-tariff barrier has been a very big challenge in South Asia even today. The barriers existing between India and Pakistan, between India and Bangladesh, India and Nepal. Each of them are unique and different. And there was one example last year. We found out that one single paper for the movement of goods from one country to another country required about 23 different signatures. That means you would have to go to 23 different desks to get those approvals. How do you think the goods would move at less cost and within time? That was raised, and countries are now addressing those unnecessary procedural barriers. Railway connectivity is improving, and India has come forward in helping Nepal as well as Bangladesh to implement the railway projects within the Nepalese territory and also in Bangladesh territory. So is ADB. ADB is helping all three countries to improve the railway infrastructure so that trade can be carried out effectively and efficiently. Afghanistan-Pakistan transit trade agreement is another major step in this category, so that Pakistan can be a transit country for trade of Afghanistan between Bangladesh and Afghanistan, or between India and Afghanistan. On the private sector cooperation, things have not changed much, but there is some traction. The SAARC Chamber of Commerce and Industries, which was a poor performer in the past, now recently they have been meeting in South Asia Business Forum. There is also a networking of apex level trade associations for better private sector cooperation and coordination, and also investment, cross-border investments within the region. One example is that India-Sri Lanka private sector cooperation has substantially gone up after the special economic agreement between the two countries. Now recently, in the last 1 year, after so many years of anchoring, India has now allowed Pakistani foreign investments to go to India, and that's a major step, in fact, to increase the confidence of the private sector in cross-border investments. And Indian private sector also is coming up in a big scale in investing in hydropower development in Bhutan and Nepal, where the prospect of hydropower development is very high. Energy, there was no cooperation at all among countries in the past. Now in the recent 2 years, the transmission link between India and Bangladesh is almost complete. Between Pakistan and India is also under construction, and between Nepal and India is also under construction. With the scaling up of the transmission linkage between and among countries, India and Bhutan already have a good transmission linkage, but the linkage among other countries was not there. The volume of energy that could be bought and sold was much less in the past. With the new infrastructure that can go on, and with this, there is already a talk among energy developers and energy traders in South Asia about creating South Asian energy market with the private sector. And if the energy market becomes efficient and effective, then only the potential of hydropower development in Afghanistan, in Nepal and Bhutan can be harnessed. And this is happening, although it happened very slowly, but it's happening. On tourism, the implementation of SASIC tourism infrastructure, although it is only among 4 countries, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Nepal and India, but this is also producing some results. The regional airports are being upgraded to increase the connectivity within the region. On the ICT, this is one area in which the South Asian region still today have not been making much progress. Most of the calls originating from India to any other country in the region, they are routed either by Singapore or Europe. That's a pity. In fact, the cost of routing the calls from a third country is substantially high. As a result, the mobile roaming charges in South Asia is possibly the highest in the world. Now, with the implementation of Information Highway Corridor project and also the preparation of the ICT master plan, and currently the regulators are also working towards the harmonization of regulations among the telecom operators, for the telecom operators. So this is also another area where some improvement has been seen. On the prospect, the prospect that we failed to realize in the past, that's why there was less traction in the past, was the nature of the emerging population in South Asia. South Asia is expected to have around 1 billion middle class population by 2025. That's about 50% of total population. It's rising every day in all countries. Middle class population is rising, and this is a huge market. This huge market definitely means increased trade flows among countries that can further promote well-being of the population. South Asia has younger demographic profile, and still today the women workforce is low and it is increasing. So as a result, there is a good prospect of growth, and each country can benefit from the growth coming from another country. Service sector in South Asia is increasing, and all countries, I think, have service sector contributing to GDP by more than 50%. That's remarkable. And of all the trades, within the trade, the share of service sector trade in South Asia is high. So this is an area where further growth can be expected by better collaboration and integration. The energy shortage is a serious problem in all of South Asian countries. Now, Bangladesh at any time has a peak load deficiency of 1 gigawatt. Pakistan has about 4 gigawatt. India has about 12 gigawatt, and Nepal has always been facing power shortage during dry season, which is normally winter season in Nepal, when daily power outage is about 12 to 14 hours. So this is a serious power shortage in almost all countries in South Asia, including Sri Lanka. And at the same time, there is also a huge prospect for developing renewable energy resources, particularly hydropower, solar and wind power. Bangladesh and Pakistan do have prospects for wind power, and if countries are willing to share these resources to minimize the problem of power outage, then prosperity can come by. And the other prospect that we see in South Asia is it lies at the center of Asia. In fact, I mean, linking the Central Asia with Southeast Asia, that can be another corridor aside from the traditional Silk Road for the trade between Central Asia and Southeast Asia. The service trade, as I said earlier, is increasing, but there is a huge prospect for increasing service trade because most of the countries in South Asia are growing very rapidly with the growth of the service sector. On the third segment of my presentation on the way forward, we are of the view in Nepal that the current focus of regional integration agenda on trade, on energy, on ICT, on tourism, this focus should continue and we should not diversify much, although South Asia is least integrated in terms of the financial market. There is hardly any interaction of any of the financial markets with another market like ASEAN. There is also no common surveillance mechanism since South Asia has not faced the kind of threat ASEAN countries faced back in 1997. But this should also be agenda in the future. But for the time being, as long as we would achieve significant progress in trade integration, I think these four areas of collaboration and cooperation should continue. And countries in South Asia should also promote, encourage the private sector to increase the cross-border investments so that the vertical specialization can be achieved. Between India and Bangladesh, Bangladesh can gain a lot by integrating with Indian textile manufacturers so that Bangladesh improves vertically on the garment production. The industrial collaboration among countries is much lower, which can be increased and private sector is willing to, but because of the policy barriers and procedural barriers and also the flow of FDI among countries, it is not happening, and this is something which South Asian countries through SAARC can promote. If the current focus of increasing the transmission linkage is the right focus, in fact, it will encourage the private sector to go in a big scale to tap the untapped hydropower resources existing in South Asia, and Afghanistan, Nepal and Bhutan do have a huge capacity that may not be fully meeting the needs of developed South Asia. But for the interim, I think the total production expected in these 3 countries alone will minimize lots of energy deficiency in the region. SAARC, as I explained in the earlier, in the beginning itself, that has been a slow mover, partly because of lack of confidence in the regional cooperation and integration, the benefits that might come from RCI. And because of lack of exchange of experience and also interaction with other regions in the world, I mean, particularly in Asia itself. For example, say CAREC started late, but they are moving pretty fast. That's what I have the impression. Because of lack of interaction with other regions, possibly SAARC is lagging behind. So my opinion would be to form a coalition or network of all regional groupings so that we can share experiences, and ADB possibly can coordinate, create a forum where that sort of coordination can happen. And in course of time, that coalition or network can also be used to develop the infrastructure linkage. For example, say linking Myanmar and India would promote the trade with ASEAN countries. In South Asia particularly is the largest pockets of aid receiving countries. We still have least developed countries in the region, and donors do play a role in the development of the countries and also the regional agenda. There are many donors who are currently working in the regional agenda. Many of them oftentimes don't know what others are doing. But among all the donors, ADB has been a front runner and a lead donor. ADB, in fact, first championed the RCI, kept it as a consistent agenda through thick and thin. So ADB has the leverage. ADB has the knowledge base as well on how the patients can pay off in the longer run for the RCI. So if ADB takes the lead in bringing all the donors together in harmonizing the policies, harmonizing the aid flows, that will maximize the value for money in the South Asian region. Finally, in conclusion, in spite of the fact that the SAARC is moving slowly, but the recent movement from each of the governments has been very encouraging, and the days ahead I see there's a really good prospect for South Asian region progressing well. Thank you very much, and I thank ADB for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.